to interact and all that with us. So we're live on Facebook. We just haven't actually officially started yet. So that'll give everybody a chance to hop in the room, get this shared to the event, get this shared on Twitter. And that way, I have you tagged on Twitter, paste.
Have you ever gotten that before? Oh no,
What's up?
An Amazon driver wants to chat with me.
Amazon driver wants to chat with me.
Yeah, I don't know about that, buddy. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. So
no, you may not chat with me.
Yeah, may not chat with you. We will not be chatting with each other. All right. So there we go. So that stuff's loaded up. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. All right. Ready to rock and roll?
Uh-huh.
Awesome. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and go live. Let me just pull it up on here, and that way we can see our live feed. And if you want to share it around at some of the places as you're on too, we'll just go ahead and rock and roll with that. So, all right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Happy Hour podcast. Of course, I'm Ray. Matt's back this week. He was absent last week when we had Howard Bloom on, and we're being joined by actress, podcast host, and model Sherry Nelson. How you doing, Sherry? How's everything hanging? Of course, you're trapped in what, British Columbia, Canada, because of COVID?
I am not really trapped. It's a little warm, and it's warm in my room right now, so maybe it looks like I'm nervous. I kind of am, but I got a shirt made.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. Good stuff. I kind of noticed that. I was like, that looks like one of our shirts. So that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
I knew it wouldn't come through customs in time. So anyways, no, I love your show. It's really good. And what do you drink? Are you drinking the Polo Gin today?
Yes. Today is the Polo Gin. So we will be doing the Polo Gin today. And actually, what we'll do is
aftershave.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do it since she already asked about it. We'll just go ahead and get into our shot of the month.
Sure.
Well, not shot of the month. It's actually our featured shot because we had so much of this left over, Sherry. We actually started going into doing different shots. Like basically, like we had to go back and do some of our old ones, because some of the old ones, I had so much left over in my freezer that, we just had to sit there and go back. And I was like, I need to clear these out of our freezer. So we're going to go through some of our old stuff until, we deplete that. And we get a lot of people that send us stuff out like, hey, would you like to try this? Can you feature us on the show? So, I'm going to go ahead and put that on here.
For your audience, though, I watched when Howard Bloom was on. So any of the audience members, check that episode, fast forward to the 49-minute mark, and watch Ray take a shot.
Oh, this stuff. And here we go. Look, God, that tastes the way aftershave smells. Like literally, like it. So terrible. But Sherry, anyways,
again, it's not that bad.
Yeah. Now you sent the bio over to us, and your family owned a lumber yard. Is that correct? You worked in the lumber industry. How did you go from the lumber industry to everything that you're doing? Were you doing that along the whole time you were modeling as well? Yeah, because I don't really know anybody that's ever worked in the lumber industry. It's kind of intriguing to me.
I worked in the British Columbia forest industry. My family owned a lumber manufacturing company. So we had the foresters, the loggers, the sawmill, the planer. So, and we were 40 miles north of the Montana border from, I was curious if I was close to your past guest, CJ Graham, but
okay.
Yeah, and so my father, he sold the company in April 2019, and at the time I was touring around for lumber trading jobs. My goal was to continue with my relationships with the U.S. traders that I had when I worked at the sawmill, and everybody said it's impossible to work in the United States as a Canadian, so there's the challenge, right? So I was down there, and I was actually at a Sierra Pacific convention, a stellar company in your country, and I got a message from a photographer on Facebook, and he said there's a Maxim magazine Covergirl contest, you should enter it. And usually those aren't available to anyone outside of the United States, and so after a few days I looked and I thought, well, I'm not doing anything right now. So I entered the contest and I didn't think I'd get very far, and I did. And so, I'm not here alone. I'm here because so many people voted for me. So anytime I do anything, I try to be as inclusive as possible.
Now with working in the lumber field, of course, you have the mill and all that. Have you ever heard of any just horrible, terrible injuries that someone had, like, sitting there, like cutting some of the trees down or something like that? Someone just literally, like, they do it and they just look down and their arms just gone, and they're just kind of like, oh, okay, what just happened right now?
Well, you got to think, a lot of the loggers, like, those are some big men. Like, my great grandfather, he had on his baby finger, he had this ring that 3 of my fingers fit in. So, the old man, he was 6'5", and he was a Swedish man. And so these loggers were up there, and if a tree falls and butts them, like one of our loggers, he was, I don't know how many miles up the mountain, but can you imagine, getting your leg completely shattered in several spots? Bumpy logging roads. So is it the injury? Is it the getting to the hospital that's the pain? So, it's a man's job. You're a wrestler, you know what it takes to have heavy testosterone. So,
And it's funny, I was going to ask because actually there's a pro wrestler named Brock Lesnar, and one of his workouts, he would take like a big tree trunk and he would put it on his arm, like a long tree trunk, and he would just run up and down the road for miles with it. And I was just like, when I read the logging stuff, I was like, have any of those loggers, do they like pick those up and just throw them on their shoulders and just walk around with the tree branches like they're absolutely nothing?
Well, you have wrestling, we have logger sports. So, so they do chainsaw cutting, lifting, running on water with logs.
I have seen that on ESPN before. That's like almost like ESPN the Ocho type stuff, if you remember that dodgeball or whatever. Like,
Well, here's an interesting fun fact: is when my great grandfather was logging, in the early 1920s, a lot of people from the Minnesota area, a lot of Scandinavians in that region. So they would come to Canada, they would do the logging and everything. And then when winter approached, they would go home because the logs are up the mountain and the river freezes. So then they would come back in the spring when the ice breaks and the log jam breaks. So then they'd come back. So when you watch those logger sports on ESPN, take note of where they're from, because you'll see a lot of the champions are from the Minnesota area and things like that. So it's still almost carried through.
Wow. And now when you did the whole Maxim stuff, how was it with getting entered? Did you have to do like a certain array of photos? Did you have to send your own photos? Did you have to pay someone to take the photos professionally for you? How did that work with actually getting entered into the Maxim stuff? Someone told you to enter in, but what kind of hoops did you have to jump through to have that actually physically come to fruition?
Well, you had to answer a questionnaire, a standard questionnaire, and then I submitted the same profile photo that he liked. So I thought, well, if he thinks it's okay, so I'll try that. But I didn't really have a lot of photos. And so we did do a questionnaire. And the funny story is when I answered it, I'd never answered anything. I thought they wouldn't accept me simply based on my answers, because they said, what do you like to do in your spare time? And I'm like, I like to play stocks with my dad. And then they're like, the prize was a cover and $25,000. And I thought, geez, that's a lot of money in Canadian funds. And I was just excited that you might see my photo online, because you'd never know who I was to have seen me. So I thought, well, if I won, then I would donate the money to the Gary Sinise Foundation, carry it to, because the money was going to the Wounded Warrior Project. And then I would also do it to pro bono veterinarians that took care of animals. And a lot of women actually liked my answers. They said, you're not going to spend the money on a photo shoot or a trip to Hawaii. So a lot of girls voted for me based on that. So I was lucky for that. And I didn't do a lot of photos, but as we kept going more and more, I was asked to get some more photos. So they were just some simple selfies and I'm not a selfie girl. So, but yeah, no, Maxim's been very good to me. I'm really happy. And who knew? I never knew I would be doing this. One man quoted, he goes from business to show business. So,
well, it's actually kind of funny, because I've always considered Maxim the clothed version of Playboy. That's what I like. It's kind of like, you take the sexy photos, and it's funny that actually when Playboy stopped doing nude, I literally said the exact quote, well, it's Maxim now. Like that's literally, that's what it is. Like, people are wearing their clothes, so now it's pretty much the same thing as Maxim. Now, since then, has that spurred out to you doing any other kind of modeling gigs from that, or have you kind of capitalized a little bit on that from the Maxim notoriety and done any more photo shoots or, shoots? I know you're about to be in a music video soon too, correct?
Well, no, not anymore. I couldn't cross. Yeah. So, but the band Wicked Star, Tony, the lead singer, he's a great man, great CD. He said, just let me know when you come down, because God bless him. He kept saying, we want you for this song, and this is the date. Couldn't make it across the border. So then he goes, how about this song at this date? And so he just said, okay, I give up. How about you tell us when you're coming across? I said, okay, I will. So I'm hoping in the next month or so I can get across. But other than that, no, I have a few projects lined up, thanks to Maxim, thanks to podcasting, doing a few promos for people once I do get down there. So I definitely have to update my portfolio. So yeah, so no, so many different things, and I never ever thought I would be in this type of a business. And yeah. I don't know for you guys if it's similar. Like I say, when I was at lumber conventions, we were constantly talking about market conditions, the housing forecast, things like that. Yeah. And then I was at a party just before COVID happened in Los Angeles, and they were talking about, creative ideas of making this movie, or so it was a right and a left brain dichotomy that was going on. So it was really kind of fun.
And with that, actually, have lumber prices come down? Because I know during COVID, lumber prices skyrocketed. Like it was absolutely, yeah. I know here in America it has, but lumber prices absolutely went insane. I'm not sure if that's come back down or not. But what all can you tell with the lumber prices? Have you dealt much with that? Like, do you know if they've come back down since the COVID stuff? Because I know
right now, high demand. The prices have come down. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, my volume kind of went away. No, lumber prices are actually below the starting 2021 levels.
Really?
And so what happens is, you probably won't see that though at the retail yard, because so many guys bought their wood as it was going up. They still have to receive that wood. The demand was so hot that there was probably a rail shortage, truck shortage. So these guys have to slowly liquidate that or average down their wood. So the consumer probably won't see, a price drop until perhaps the fall or early next year, because there's just so much inventory at high levels they got to get through. But it is below, where it was when the year started. So the greatest lumber run up and the greatest lumber drop now. But it's amazing. And, a fun fact is, if you're in a rural area and you see a lot of lumber rolling on trucks or rail cars, that's a sign of a healthy economy.
Okay.
Because housing is the healthy foundation.
Cool. And of course, you've heard our show, you've heard other episodes besides Howard or whatever. And I'm just kind of sitting here, me being the human being that I am, you're sitting there talking about, their lumber's up, their wood's up, their wood's down. I'm just kind of like, we're sitting here talking to a woman that's just talking about men and wood.
Men's wood.
Yeah.
And it goes down.
And one thing
goes up again
that I want to discuss is that have you ever seen, where you were, anybody who's ever driven around with a pickup truck that has nuts hanging from the pickup truck? Have you ever seen that? The truck nuts that guys drive around with? Have you ever seen those?
With what? I don't know what happened to my volume.
I know.
Have
you ever seen anybody with a pickup truck that has a set of like the truck nuts hanging from the bottom of the truck? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Like it bothers me that the people who ride around with those, pretty much you sit there and just imagine that. Like, not only do you have them on your truck, but imagine the person who has to package those. Like, that person has sat there and has collectively grabbed probably about like 2,000 things of nuts, like molded rubber balls that they're packaging up. Like, and I kind of sat there and I thought about it. I'm like, could you imagine being the person like everything gets transported, wood gets transported, goods get transported, all that, and then there's the person who sends out truck nuts and dildos. Like, could you imagine being the person who packages all that up and you're just sitting there? It's just, to me, it would be weird.
Somebody's having a party.
It would be weird. The Matt, it would be weird. But there's just that one person that just sits there, no problem. Just boom, big dildo, boom, in a package. Big dildo, boom, in a package. Big dildo, boom, in a package.
Nuts.
And it's just, nuts. Now nuts. And it's just like, what is all that? Like how much money does one get paid to package up truck nuts and dildos?
I imagine just as much as the other guy that packages things.
And Sherry, like, that's the kind of thing. Like, how much, if someone sat there and they're like, hey, we have a job proposal for you. We want you to package dildos and truck nuts. Well, would you just kind of be like, yeah, I need a lot of money for that? Because I think I would sit there and I'd be like, you know what? I would get bored, and in my free time, I'd tie these things together and use them as nunchucks or, something along those lines.
See, you're talking about packaging the nuts and the dildos. What about the people that paint those things? Have you ever seen?
Oh, yes, yeah.
They got these nuts, and they're sitting there painting every little detail, every little vein.
Yeah.
Nuts.
I guess everything can be art in a form.
To me, I don't know.
Yeah, and Sherry's just kind of like, these guys.
That's not my kind of job.
These guys are fucking insane.
Or is it? Or is it my job?
Yeah, and it's just insane to me. For example, if anybody asked you to do that, would that be a job that Sherry would do if someone was like, hey, would you do this or would you do that? Nope. She's like, oh, I'm out. I'm done. I'm done with these guys.
Ray?
You there?
Yeah, we're here.
Sorry, can I come back? I can't hear you.
Yeah, that's fine. That's 100% fine. All right, no problem. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to just keep on rolling along. So what we're going to do, Sherry's having a little bit of technical issues. She will be back soon. So what we're going to do is we are going to get into our beer of the week. And our beer of the week is, of course, from Rogue Brewing Company. Of course, Rogue Brewing Company sent us out some beer not too long ago, which is
we're finally getting around
Dead Guy Ale. So, we did some before. It was that beach type beer that we had, the one with the orange
drinking
can.
So much beer in this show.
And it's Dead Guy Ale, and it says gratefully dedicated to the Rogue and each of us. Dead Guy Ale is a Maybach. I thought it said mailbox. It's a Maybach style ale with a robust malt profile and a sweetness that is balanced by the liberal use of bittering hops. Are they saying that this is a liberal beer? I don't understand. And of course, this is the guy right there on the front. So Dead Guy Ale. Shout out to Rogue Brewing Company. They always have excellent stuff. They've sent us stuff out in the past. It
pairs well with grilled asparagus, barbecue ribs, and pecan pie. I know.
So the next time I make my wife grilled asparagus, I'm gonna be like, you need to drink Dead Guy Ale. And of course, Sherry's back with us. Sherry, are you good now with the hearing stuff and all that?
I am good, but I wanted to show you. I brought.
What do you? Oh, look at that! Look, she's got a whole.
Oh man.
Whole trade. So what
the liquor store was so fun. So here we go. It's going to school with Ray and Matt. So here we go.
Going to school.
Yeah.
So I've got, here is for the syrup of champions. It is out of Quebec. It's Canadian whiskey and maple syrup.
Oh, nice. I see Moosehead. You have we've had Moosehead on as a beer of the week before.
Moosehead Lager.
Yes.
Out of Saskatchewan. Canada Dry vodka soda.
Oh, nice. I didn't know they had Canada Dry vodka soda.
I know. Check this out. Homage to the great one, Wayne Gretzky.
Oh,
Wayne
nice.
No, he made it. He made it.
Really?
Yeah.
One of the greatest hockey players.
I want to get, actually, Metallica has a vodka out, and I saw it at a store. I want to pick up Metallica's vodka because that looks really good. So that would be huge.
Really?
Metallica
and
vodka.
Then we got ice wine for the ladies. And that comes out of Quebec. It's really good. It's a good dessert. And then I got this because he dared me at the liquor store. So I said I would drink this with you guys. It's pineapple habanero, jalapeno lime, and vodka.
Oh, nice. Go ahead.
Ooh.
You know what? Go ahead. Let's do it right now. Let's see how that is.
Take a little swig.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We're gonna have to go find out. I'm sure I can probably find that total wine.
She's got strong. She's a champion.
Oh yeah, she Yeah, she came prepared.
Ooh, it's not bad.
Not bad, not bad. Awesome.
You know what I discovered last year, though? These.
What is
I
that?
think they're American, though. They're mudslides. Oh, they're really, really good.
Nice.
Vodka. They got chocolate, strawberry, and banana.
Oh, nice.
That sounds cool.
But I have some fun things that I looked up last night. And so I know you always have a big audience out there. So hopefully they can either agree or disagree. And I found these on problemsandsolutions.org. So here's a little, so kids, don't try this at home. This is just information for your next cocktail party.
And hopefully there's no children listening to this program.
Yeah,
I would hope. And if so, listener discretion advised. If you like your kids to hear very vulgar, demeaning things, then this is the program for your child. If you want your child to grow up and be Jeffrey Dahmer, this is the program you want them to listen to.
Okay. So anyone out there from Fairbanks, Alaska, you already know this. It's illegal to feed a moose any alcohol.
Oh, yes.
Why? That's the first things I would do.
That's the title of this episode. It is illegal to feed a moose alcohol in Fairbanks, Alaska.
See, don't try this at home.
Yeah.
Ohio, almost similar. It is against the law to give alcohol to a fish to the point of intoxication.
What? Could you imagine? Here's the thing. All right, so now, to a fish. So imagine this: you're on a boat, you're fishing, you cast out, you reel in this big catfish, and instead of sitting there and posing for a picture with this prize catfish or this prize bass bass, you just sit there and you just pour beer in his mouth. You're like, you son of a bitch! You're gonna drink all this beer, and then you're
waterboarding the fish. With beer.
So you waterboard the fish until it stops squirming, and that's just what it is. And it's like, all right, fish, now you just go back in the water.
Wouldn't that be more humane? Wouldn't that be more humane?
Yeah, like I mean, that's the thing. It's like, and it's crazy these facts when people put these out. It's like kind of like weird laws. Like I love looking up weird laws.
Really, that's the thing. So people were actually doing that.
Yeah. Somebody actually, these things you're reading off, somebody actually did this.
So they had to make it illegal.
Yeah, like who told on who? Right. Who got punished for it?
Yeah.
Okay, now homage to Saskatchewan's Moosehead Lager. In Saskatchewan, Canada, I'd never heard this. It's illegal to drink alcohol while watching exotic dancers.
Oh, wait! Whoa!
So I'm wondering,
I've been a felon by now.
Here's the thing. I just want to peel my own skin off of my own face.
And where's that at again?
Saskatchewan, Canada.
Well, I guess where I'm not going.
Yeah.
If anyone's in the audience, they got to let us know. Or if you're in this club right now, let us know.
You know how many times
I'm sure there's
did you find out what is the maximum amount of time in prison for that? Because now I need to sit there and kind of calculate how many times me, Blood, and Socrates, or just me and you, or whoever else in general, we've went and committed that crime. How much time we would be facing in Saskatchewan, Canada?
I'd be a felon right now.
We'd be looking at like 10,000 years in prison. Like,
yeah, sure. Probably say, hey, stop dancing for a second.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a shot.
Yeah.
You can dance again.
It's kind of like drinking at the red lights. It's not drinking and driving. If you're stopped,
you gotta make sure your car is in park and the keys are not the ignition. You can drink all you want in your car.
Yeah, it's like, wait, stop dancing, hold this thought. Oh, wait, we'll have Guns N' Roses play again in a second. Wait. All right, now take your top off.
Okay, now anyone out there from St. Louis, Missouri, did you know it's illegal to sit on the side of the street curb and drink from a bucket? A glass maybe, but not a bucket.
See, so it's illegal to drink from a bucket. So that means that you can sit there and drink from anything else on the planet. You're good. You can sit there. You can just hollow out a human being's skull, brain straight out of the skull, and just drink out of a human skull. However, if a cop comes by and you're drinking out of a bucket,
you're in trouble, buddy.
You're fucked. Dude, hey, you're coming with me. Don't mind Larry's head that you were just drinking out of. You just drank out of that mop bucket. You're coming with me. This is great. I love this.
Okay, now, and this is close to you. So, oh, no, sorry. In North Dakota, they say it's against the law for servers to serve beer and pretzels at the same time in any bar or restaurant. What? So I'm like, is that you can't serve them together? you can serve the beer first, then bring over the pretzels. I'm confused by this one.
Like
that's a little
because it's
like
weird.
here's your beer, here's your pretzels. Put your hands up! Put your hands up! How dare you?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you just sit there, you're drunk at the bar, and you're like, oh man, like I need something to kind of bring down this drunkenness a little bit. Can I have a little bit of pretzels? Get the fuck out of here right now. We don't serve beer and pretzels together. Who the hell do you think you are? You get your ass out of here.
How dare you, sir?
Let me tell you this now. You said that was North Dakota, right? Look, let me tell you.
Yeah.
In North Dakota right now, if I come there and I ask for pretzels and I'm drinking, you're going to give my ass some pretzels, because if not, we're going to have...
You guys are going to taunt places now.
They just can't serve it to you. They get drunk for serving it. You don't get drunk for eating it.
Okay, now, all those Texas people out there, did you know it's prohibited to take more than 3 sips of beer at a time while standing? And people really need to check this one. The entire Encyclopedia Britannica is banned in Texas because it contains a recipe for making beer that can be used at home. Well, Google threw that one out, I think.
Yeah, that's almost something like, now I need to find an Encyclopedia Britannica and blow that up and frame it and put it on my wall. That way people will go, what is that? That's the beer recipe that is in the Encyclopedia Britannica. And that is what, and they'll be like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, yes, this is it. Go buy one and find this out. Sherry, I am so glad you found those facts.
It's fun.
Yeah,
but you know what? When I was looking at it started out saying, you can't buy alcohol in the grocery store or at Walmart. I'm like, like all these laws that are unusual in the United States are standard up here. I'm like, that's not unusual. Like,
What's weird is we're in Maryland, and in Maryland, you can't buy alcohol in like Walmart or anything like that. But it's weird though. If you're over on the Eastern Shore or a different part of Maryland, you can walk into, certain parts have it. So I guess it's by jurisdiction in Maryland, but in our main area, you walk into Wawa and all that, there's no alcohol. We go to other states, you walk into a grocery store or Wawa, anything like that, there's alcohol.
You will hear another funny one. I was actually way in PA in the Poconos, and you cannot buy wine and beer. And you can't purchase it at the same time.
Okay.
We're at the same place.
Well, you can't mix them together, I guess, kind of like how you can't mix blood and sperm together. Like, that's not a good combination.
It's supposedly illegal to do that. You have to buy your beer and wine on, I guess, separate transactions.
Okay.
You can't buy them together. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. You have beer, you have wine. They're like, sir, you're going to have to go over to the register too. Can I just ring this here? No, sir, register too. But I want to register too, you son of a bitch.
Imagine the self-checkout and then the fucking alarm goes off.
Like, oh shit! Did I just win $1 million? What just am I the 100th customer? Like, what is this? Oh man, that's great. And
in Maryland there is, I don't know. This might be a little vulgar to say, but in Maryland there is actually a law that I know that. This sounds terrible, but you cannot have anal sex and choke someone at the same time.
Now, how would you know that?
Yeah.
Don't ask me how I know that.
Could you imagine that?
Things I have to know.
You do that and an alarm that you don't know exists in your house just goes off. Like just one of those like police logo, like one of the little red lights, like and then kind of like in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, when all the guys come through the window, the SWAT teams are coming through the windows and all that. That's how it just is. And it's like, get out of the ground, you son of a bitch. You're just mid thrust. You're like, okay, I'll put my hands up like this. Okay, I'm sorry. Like,
well, how do people know what you're doing behind closed doors?
Yeah,
that's not fair.
Well, there was one, I forgot what state it is, but it said you could not take a lion to a movie theater on a Sunday. And that's very specific. Like, I forgot what
the tiger, yes, but not the lion.
Yeah, could you imagine that? And of course, during COVID, there's not a lot of movie going to. But could you imagine you're sitting in a movie theater and you're sitting there, you're laughing at the movie, and you just hear a loud roar, and you just look back, and fucking Simba is behind you in the fucking.
Well, I'll tell you what, it better not be on a goddamn Sunday. You son of a bitch! How dare you bring that line in here
on the Lord's Day?
Goddamn Sunday, you son of a bitch!
This is the Lord's Day, you cocksucker! And Man, it's insane, and it kind of makes me go into, and this is one thing I want to talk about. Sherry, have you ever had anybody in your family? And of course, I've had it a couple of times because a lot of times I would get a little bit heavier in weight, and there's times where people. I know my wife, her cousin has sleep apnea. And people have these like masks that they wear, and they have to carry this little device around with them, and it's this big like device that goes on your face with the tube. Do you know anybody that has sleep apnea?
I don't think so. I don't know. Why?
See, the thing about sleep apnea is some people have it and they don't even know.
Yeah, well, see, here's the thing. My wife has told me before is that she's heard me literally like snore and then stop breathing in the middle of my sleep. And I was like, well, at any point did you think to wake me up? And then I sat there and I thought, I'm like, well, maybe she was sitting there. As soon as she heard me stop breathing, she just stared down at me like, this is it. I'm free. And like,
I feel the same way. I think my wife be like,
come on.
God,
and then
dead.
They hear the breath come back into your body, and they're like, damn it. But I always sat there and I thought, I was like, with the sleep apnea mask, like you have this like apparatus that goes on your face. Why haven't they made specialty sleep apnea masks? Like, imagine that. Like, if you're familiar with Batman, like just imagine if someone made a Bane sleep apnea mask. Like you have that contraption on your face, but it changes your voice, and it's just like you're sleeping in the middle of the night. You're like, I will kill the Batman. As you're in the middle of your sleep,
and all of a sudden the sleep apnea cases went through the roof. With those masks.
I said that I'm like, should I invent this? Like, why are you a millionaire from this? And there's so many possibilities because you could do a Sub-Zero one, you could do one for Scorpion, you could do Katana, Melina, a Power Rangers helmet. Like you could make a Power Rangers helmet. Like so awesome. Someone sticks the Power Rangers helmet on, and it's a sleep apnea mask, and they sleep in that. And I sat there and I thought, I was like,
after the show, we got to patent this shit.
There was two ideas that I've always had for inventions, and it was the unique sleep apnea mask and very designed yarmulkes for Jewish people. Like you never sit there and you never see like you see Jewish people, they wear the yarmulkes, but you never see them wear one with like an Orioles logo on it or anything like that. And you're like, they go to sports games.
They're allowed
like,
to. Though.
No, but see, but that's the thing though. Like if you go to a baseball game, you can't wear a hat. So why not just like throw an Orioles logo into that?
Or at least a different color.
I mean,
like an orange one.
All right, so Sherry, let's look at it this way. You have a Bane sleep apnea mask, and a man comes into your house. He breaks in the middle of the night, and he comes into your room, and he's getting ready to put a gun to your face, be like, give me everything you have. And you're sitting there with this Bane mask on, or, let's say you can get a Darth Vader one, and you're just sitting there like Darth Vader, and they're just kind of like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Like, what?
Yes. Don't you think if you tiptoed, you'd be like, okay, I'm out.
yeah.
No, especially
I think you're crazier than I am. I'm going next door.
like, that's the thing. Like, you have a Bane one, you sleep up in the middle of the night. I'm gonna break the back of the Batman. Or you wake up as Scorpion and you're like, get over here. And you shoot just like a spear out of your arm, and it just grabs them by the throat. You're like, come here. And it's just like, what's happened? I feel like, all right, that's it. So these sleep apnea masks, they're going to save lives. That's our pitch. We're going to start an OnlyFans. And what's going to happen is we're going to start an OnlyFans. We're going to create these masks, and we're going to wear just the masks and take photos of us wearing just the masks. It's going to be the Bane. And it's me with my awful manly body, my awfully flabby manly body with the Bane mask on. And then it's going to be Matt with his, better manly body with the Bane mask. And then people can kind of choose what their desire is with that. And that it'll be the sleep apnea OnlyFans. And that's what it'll be. And it'll show us laying in bed. Because you know how it is. People out there have a lot of weird niches. They have a lot of weird fantasies. And that's the thing. We can sit there, we can take pictures of us laying in bed with these weird sleep apnea masks on, and we can charge people to just look at us with photos.
Well, you're capitalizing on everyone already wearing a mask, so there's not a lot of convincing. And then to tap into the female demographic, it's infused with collagen and aloe. There you go. Anti-aging.
And of course, shout out to Joe Mata. He has a podcast also. We're going to try to work with Joe a little bit in the future as well. He's watching live. He said, hello, gentlemen. So hello, Joe. How you doing out there? Of course, we are live on Facebook Live. And what we are going to do real quick for everybody watching live, for everybody listening at home on Spotify, Apple, wherever you find your podcast, we are going to take a quick break. We're going to play some of our sponsors, play some of our songs, and we will be right back with Sherry Nelson. Welcome back to the Happy Hour podcast. Of course, my name is Ray. I'm sitting here with Matt. We're here with Sherry Nelson. We already did our beer of the week and our feature shot. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into our Ode to Humanity segment. So Sherry, you've heard our program. You've listened in. You've watched some of the videos. So you kind of have a little bit of a gist of what our games are. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into 5-second rule. So 5-second rule. Are you familiar with 5-second rule any at all?
I think so. I'm so bad. Every time I watch your show, I'm like, did not get that one. I'm easy.
All right. So 5-second rule. Unfortunately, this is not an easy one this week.
It's not.
So it is not, and I don't even know anything.
She's from Canada, so she might know a little bit more.
I'm the host of the show, and I don't really know a lot. Yeah. So Matt, you want to go ahead and ask what the three are, and then I will take this little creative thing. Everybody's always intrigued by this, especially when we have the adult film stars on. They're like,
I'm intrigued. Yeah, of course. I'm intrigued.
So what? Well, I'm going to go ahead and do is
my dad's watching. Does he think she's an adult film star?
And Matt, you want to go ahead and ask her what it is, and I'll flip this over?
So you're going to name 3 types of grass.
Okay.
3 types of grass, starting right now.
Marijuana.
I mean, that's the only one I had in my head. So
there's there's like a golf.
Yeah. So Matt, unfortunately, marijuana is out. Yeah. So now it goes to Matt. So Matt,
can I mail a friend? Can I mail a friend?
Can you call a friend?
Yeah. Can I call a friend?
So Matt, what we're gonna do is 3 types of grass starting now.
Kentucky bluegrass and Chinese.
All right.
Grass.
So marijuana grass, Kentucky bluegrass, and Chinese grass is out. So now it goes to me.
I don't know if Chinese grass is real. I just said that.
Yeah.
I think we should probably just say that and it happens.
3 types of grass starting now. Cut grass. And that's all I have. So if anybody out there knows any kind of grass that is out there, definitely let us know what types of grass are out there. And what we're going to do now,
because I know there is Kentucky bluegrass. I know that's a real thing. I just don't know any other fucking grasses.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pin myself right here, and we're going to get into our game called Incoherent. So Sherry, what you're going to do is I'm going to hold up a card, and pretty much you might want to take a shot or 2 or 15 before doing this, because you're going to have to sound this out. It's in drunken lingo. So sound it out.
She's really doing it too.
Hear yourself,
of course.
Hear yourself say it. And I have a couple hints on the back of the card. If you need the hints, let me know that you need the hints, and I can read off some of the hints for you. So this is the card right there. Can you read that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think that says? Sound that out and see if you can figure out what that says. And I can give you a few of the hints on the back if you need.
I can't even.
Oh, you got it. What?
What?
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
What? She said, she did it right.
That wasn't even.
I can't even. That 100%.
See, kids,
she's really drinking. That's
clarity.
Yeah, she has ESP. That's what this is.
She had the upper hand because she's really drinking.
Yeah.
All our other guests probably weren't drinking.
That was it. And
yay!
Yeah,
the jalapeno.
The hints would have been.
It's the jalapenos.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
The hints would have been whatever. And then when you witness something so dumb, it makes you incapable of speech.
I feel like I do.
Yeah, and
yes, I do that all the time.
And then of course
we
have,
sometimes I can't even with this show.
And of course, what I'm going to do is actually somehow I accidentally shared the link to the Zoom info, but there's a fan that's in the room. I'm going to go ahead and admit them in case they have any kind of questions. Their name is Teresa Sabin, so I'm going to go ahead and admit them, see if they come through. Yeah, I don't know her. I don't know her either, but she's in the room, so I'm going to go ahead and I accidentally shared the Zoom link online.
I know her. She's a big deal.
Oh, is she? Okay, cool.
She's a wonderful, wonderful lady.
So what we're going to do is we're going to get into our Ode to Humanity segment. And our Road to Humanity segment right now, we can't do that without Cards Against Humanity. So have you ever played Cards Against Humanity?
No.
Okay. So pretty much we have a black face card and we have a bunch of, white cards to answer the card. So what I'm going to do, and this is a pick 2 card. So you have to pick 2 different answers. So, and of course, hello to Teresa. Teresa is joining us in the room. I saw her in the waiting room. So I went ahead and submitted her in. So then that way she could join in with all the fun. So pretty much the card is goodbye blank, hello blank. And your options, and I can repeat any of these if you need to. Your options are going oink oink like a nasty little boy pig, like a nasty little boy pig.
Pig boy.
Crunchy snacks from my big flappy mouth. My daughter fucking my boyfriend. All of my dead sisters.
What?
Being inside of me and shitting perfectly into a hot dog bun. So what do you think? Which 2 do you think? And I can reread them for you.
The first one, the oink oink and the.
Okay. Oink oink and which one?
Oink.
And out goes a diet or something.
My dead sisters.
What? All right. So you said the first one. So going. So the other options are for the hello blank is crunchy snacks for my big flappy mouth.
That one.
Okay. So pretty much her choices are goodbye, going oink oink like a nasty little pig boy. Hello, crunchy snacks from my big flappy mouth. And if I had to choose, I would be goodbye, all of my dead sisters. Hello, shitting perfectly into a hot dog bun. And Matt, if you had any options of which ones you would choose, which one would it be?
I'd say goodbye to going oink oink like a little nasty pig boy. And hello being inside me.
And Sherry, of course, we talked a little bit about, of course, you do some podcast hosting. And I told you before, if you ever want to help us out, we're always in need of bonus podcast hosts. It makes the show much how did you get associated? Of course, you help out Jimmy Star. You do stuff with Cedric the Entertainer. How did you get looped in with a lot of that stuff?
I was at this Sue Wong Oscar party just before COVID ended, and I was walking down this red carpet. I'd never done that before, and there was this really pretty girl with big blonde hair, and she kept looking back at me, and I thought, oh, geez, this girl's gunning for me, right? So then I get up there, and I tried to sidestep so I didn't have to talk to her. She goes, yeah. I thought you were Tawny Katane. I'm like, see what now? Woo! And oh my, like anybody loves that lady, God bless her. And so she was on a show called Movie Reviews and More. And she was talking to Brian Sebastian, the owner, founder of the show, and they needed an extra co-host. And she said, why don't you talk to Sherry? And he was also looking for some lumber for his Dreamweaver ranch. So he and I were talking on the phone quite a bit. And then one day, Trixie Gwynn of Custom Trends, that's who the lady was. And she said, have you talked to Sherry to come on the show? He goes, no, I didn't. Why? And she goes, well, did you see her? He goes, no, we've only talked on the phone. She goes, go video chat with her. And then I got on there, and then I got along well with all the other girls, and I started on that show. And then I'd get interviewed, and they'd be like, oh, we need someone to co-host. And I said, okay, I will. So yeah. I love it. It's fun. You get to tap into different demographics. But
and I mean,
I was about your show. You're a big deal.
Yeah, we try to be, I mean, that's the thing. We started this June of last year, and I tell everybody I never expected the podcast to go where it is. I mean, I'm 100% honest. Like our numbers are nothing to write home about. We come out, we do this, we have fun. But I spent 20 years in the wrestling business. I'm a retired, independent pro wrestler. I got to do all kinds of cool stuff. And, it's the whole thing that, God bless my wife. Like, she's upstairs in a room with the dogs locked up, while I do this, so they don't make noise or try to break through the door to say hello to Matt, while we're doing this. So, it's the whole thing that, now that my wrestling career is done, I'm like, you still, you know, no one ever knows, you know, unless you're a baseball player, a pro wrestler, or a football player, that high that you get going out and performing in front of a live crowd. And, you know, I can still do that, you know, on Facebook Live, whether it's 5 people or 50,000 people or, you know, however it is, you know, I've always been able to sit there and just talk to anybody. And they're like, how can you just sit there and talk to anybody? I'm like, well, I've been on a movie set with Mickey Rourke. I've been in, you know, locker rooms with Kevin Nash, Jake the Snake Roberts, you know, guys like that. I got used to it. It's like second nature. Is there anybody that you've talked to with any of the podcast shows you've done that's just kind of blown your mind, that you're just kind of like, oh man, I can't believe I'm talking to this person?
Well, every single person that I've ever met, I cannot believe that I'm talking to them. Like you probably feel this way. Like if I hear a Jack and Diane song on the radio, I can't believe I know Kenny Aronoff. It sounds different, you know, things like that. But and a guy that would be great on your show is and he's similar to your other CJ Graham, is CJ Ramon. Okay. He is really, really smart. And like on our fan room live, there were people from Russia that came on the show and they were toasting in Russia vodka, but he's very well read. He's a common sense guy. He's the guy you want to go to a barbecue with. And then like the diversity the people that I've met, well, you know, Leland Sklar, and I met a man named Ivor Davis, and I was an American history student when I was in college. And he when the Beatles arrived in America, he toured with them. Okay. And then when that was over, he went and Charles Manson murder, it was his reporting that became the initial template of prosecution. So he's telling all these stories, and he was on the train with Robert F. Kennedy on their way to California. So this man, I was living history. So, but everybody is, I still can't believe I talked to them. Like like Eileen always says, you're a fangirl. I am. You know, and then I'm reading about you, and I'm like, oh, these alcohol stories are going to be so fun. And then I was Googling you. I'm like, oh God, now I'm really nervous.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, Matt, when we started the show, Matt had never done anything like this before in his life, you know, and I was just kind of like, don't worry about it, dude. If we get lost, I know how to guide us through the, you know, trench, you know, through the trenches. It's whatever, you know, I'm used to dealing with, you know, a live crowd. I'm used to dealing with stuff. Just roll with the punches. And, you know, to me, it's just kind of like, you know, I've never had a guest where I was kind of giddy with having a guest on, because I'm so used to it. But Matt, you know, sometimes Matt's just kind of like, man, like when we had like Wes from Puddle of Mud on, you know, I was just kind of like, man, I can't believe I'm talking to Wes from Puddle of Mud. Or, you know, Doug Bradley, who was Pinhead. Yeah, you know, that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, you get these, you know, iconic people on there that have these iconic roles, like CJ Graham. You know, you get these guys on, you know, or these ladies on that, you know, just do all this stuff, and it's just like, hey, I'm just here talking. I have a platform, you know, I'm able to, you know, say on Facebook, hey, you know, blah blah. And you know, my thing is everybody always asks, hey, how come you always have so many guests? How do you get your guests? I'm like, plain and simple, you just have to have confidence. Like, you know, you need to be able to go out there and not only, you know, one thing I learned the most from professional wrestling, the 22 plus years I've done it, you know, I still, you know, if someone sat there and asked me, can you come do a show tomorrow? I would do it, even though I'm retired, because you never, ever get away from the thing that made you who you are. And pro wrestling, you know, that defines me as a person. That's, you know, it'll always be a part of me. You know, it's the kind of thing that you learn how to sell, not only sell that you're getting beat up, not only sell that, you know, you're relaying to the crowd that, hey, I'm a good guy or a bad guy, but you also learn how to, when you go in for a job interview or anything like that, how to sell yourself to somebody.
I sell myself every night.
And I mean, that's the thing.
Well, you're very good though at having a comfortable, casual conversation and bringing things out. Like with CJ Graham, he was a Chippendale. I'm like, what? You know, like,
Sherry's just like, oh man, I need to find that. Sherry's like, as soon as she hears that, she's Googling Chippendale CJ Graham.
She already did.
Jackie Collins Club. I'm like, I need more to know about this, Matt. For me, it's about uncovering unique talking points. Like a couple weeks ago, we had Jackie Callan, the first lady of boxing. And before she was a boxing coach, she was a reporter. And in the, I think it was one of Elvis Presley's last concerts when he was in Detroit. And him and Tom Parker didn't really like doing interviews. So she really wanted to interview him. So she contacted the mayor and she said, why don't we give him the key to the city? And he goes, yeah, I'll do that. She goes, no, we will do that. And she got the interview. So it's not negative things, but these little anecdotes, you're like, so I always hope, like you bring things out of people that are really fun conversation pieces or elements to learn from. But I was really intrigued by you. Like I was a big wrestling fan when I was younger. I come from the Stu Hart, Bret Hart, Owen Hart territory.
Canada is huge with pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So many great imports. You know, Bret Hart, the whole Hart family, Trish Stratus, you know, just female in, you know, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, even though the tragedy that struck that, you know, him and his family, but still, you get so many great performers in that business that have come out of Canada that, you know, you just look at. And I mean, that's great. Thank you. You know, I mean, that's the thing, being a fan of any kind, I always appreciate that, because, you know, after a while, my first 2 or 3 years in business, it was about me. And then after a while, it stopped being about me and it started being about the people. I was like, what can I do better to relate to them? You know, they're paying hard-earned money. It doesn't matter what's going on with me. I could receive a phone call 3 seconds before I walk out of the curtain and say, your dad died or your mom died. And it's like, at that point, it doesn't matter. You need to be able to go out there and turn that switch on and become whoever you need to be as soon as you walk out of that curtain. And I've always liked that because it gives you a release. There for a while, for, you know, that if you have an 8-minute match, if you have an 18-minute match, if you have a 28-minute match, however long your match is, you can become somebody else for that short period of time. Nothing else exists. Not your bills, not, you know, your personal problems, nothing like that. It's just you and that crowd. And that's it. You, the person you're in the ring with, and that crowd. And
what was it about wrestling that drew you to it? Because similar to what you just said, Jackie Callan, she was drawn to boxing because she said, you alone are in that ring. You've got no protection. And it's like life. You struggle to pay your bills. You struggle. What drew you to wrestling versus boxing or other MMA?
I mean, the whole thing is, and you know, I tell people all the time, and, you know, a lot of people listening to the podcast, you know, we started this podcast off. The first 2 episodes, Matt knows this, I dedicated it to our fun road stories, you know, because pro wrestling brought me here. I want to be doing this. I want to be talking to you today. You know, hell, me and Matt want to be friends today. If it wasn't for pro wrestling, I met my wife through pro wrestling, you know, so everything I have today, I had because of that business. You know, 5 years old, I started myself watching pro wrestling. I grew up following The Undertaker. You know, Steve Austin got in. My walls were papered from wall to wall with posters of wrestlers. And, you know, when I was 13, I was getting ready to turn 14. My dad was like, hey, you know, he was reading in the paper something about a pro wrestling school called Brainbusters Pro Wrestling Academy. Shout out to Bob Starr, Playboy Hollywood Bob Starr. Good friend of mine. You know, he was in WCW as enhancement talent. He's on a podcast all the time. He was one of my first trainers. You know, I went over to Brainbusters Pro Wrestling Academy, signed up to be a pro wrestler, and the rest was history after that. And, you know, you go in, and the wrestling business isn't for everybody. They just think that it's easy. You know, you get all these backyard companies, and, you know, every so often you get guys who, you know, build a ring in their backyard who make it in the wrestling business, but everybody thinks you can just walk in and wrestle and that's it. No, you know, pro wrestling is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. You have to learn how to fall. You have to learn how to protect somebody. You know, that's the thing. Like, my finishing move was a pile driver. You know, I developed the way, I have a bad lower back because of the way I developed how to do the pile driver. I would land on the top part of my ass and my lower back just so I could protect the guy's head so they wouldn't land spiked down on their head with a pile driver. And, you know, it's the whole thing of there's so much learning that you need to know how to work the crowd. You need to know how to work your gimmick. It's literally the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. There's so much to absorb, and, you know, it's just, you get mesmerized. You kind of there for a little bit, you kind of get to be a superhero for a little bit. You know, these little kids are looking at you like, man, this guy just went through a table and he's getting back up and beating up this bad guy. You know, and I mean, that's just the whole thing of, you know, just being able to, you know, people come and they believe so much, you know, and the business, it's worked. It's predetermined. But you have all these people that just believe in it, and they just love the fact that you're going out there and performing for them. Al Snow said when we had him on a couple of weeks ago, that's the only industry in the world where you go out there on a nightly basis and get the shit beaten out of you just for the entertainment of somebody else. And that's 100% the way it is.
It's predetermined as it is. It's like watching you wrestle. It's like when they're falling from that top rope, that shit hurts. It's gotta hurt. I mean, you can see it. It's like, oh my God.
And I mean, the ring's padded. You're taught how to fall right. But there's this much padding on top of a ring that is made out of cast iron steel. There's cast iron steel frames that go across. There's steel bars, at least 6 or 7 steel bars to go this way, 3 or 4 steel bars to go that way. And then what's on top of that? Plywood boards or long, individual boards that are probably about like that thick that intersect that ring. Yeah. So pretty much you have that much padding to land on top of on a wood and steel frame. Yep. That if you get a hole in that padding, there's been times I've taken a bump in the ring and there was a hole in the padding and all you feel is wood and metal and you're just kind of like, oh, fuck, that hurt. Yeah, well, and it's like
it's just people watching. It's just like just looks like a regular ring or whatever. But if you've ever actually been in a ring, like I haven't. The first time I stepped in a ring was when I became friends with this guy, and it's like. You guys really do. Oh my God. I couldn't imagine throwing my body into this.
And one thing that throws people off is, Sherry, how like you watch a wrestling match and someone sits there and they throw the guy into the ropes. People learning how to run those ropes. I sat there and I would just sit there and I would spend hours showing people how to run those ropes because you just don't run and hit the ropes and run back. No, it's sequence. You run, and it's funny because we used to sit there and say, when you come off the ropes, you kind of do like the Hitler march. 1, 2, 3, pivot, turn, your feet is in the L, always grab the rope, because what happens if you don't grab the rope, Sherry? Let's say, well, why would it be important to grab the rope when you're hitting, ropes in a wrestling ring? Why would you think it would be important to
lose control?
What's that?
You lose control.
Not only lose control, but more often than not, those ropes will break. So if the rope breaks and you're not holding that rope, what's going to happen? You're going to just fall right out of that ring. You grab that rope and it breaks. You kind of have a way to kind of break your, kind of collect yourself. You have the other rope to grab onto on the way down. So, I used to always tell guys, you look at that rope and when you run, that's what you look at. Grab, turn, pivot, 1, 2, 3, boom. And WWE's ring's a little bit bigger. I'm used to traditional 18-foot rings. Some independent companies have 16-foot rings. WWE has 20.
Yeah, makes
sense.
So
you need to learn how to adjust. Also, WWE has real ropes. Other places have table ropes. Like it's literally a game of adjustments. It's kind of like playing Battleship or Risk.
And you guys, you guys aren't little people. You guys are 200, 300 pound men.
I mean, at my heaviest when I wrestled, I was 270. At my lightest, I was 220. But either way you look at it, you have a guy that weight that's being flipped over his head or being thrown or do that. And God forbid, you're in the ring with a 350-pound guy, and that son of a bitch can't get up for a suplex. Guess what?
I've seen
you need to get his ass over for a suplex. And
I remember as a little girl, my dad, again, getting back to the Hart family, Stu Hart, he did Stampede Wrestling and they toured. And I can remember banging on the mat and it was loud because we were in the high school gym in the nearest town watching that. But, there's something in wrestling that transcends borders that just resonates. Like you guys are like the rock stars, Japan, everything. So many people just light up. Like we had Paul White on the show, and one of the founders of the show, Jeff Krause, he's very serious. He's highly intelligent, keeps his cards close to his chest. And then Paul White came on and he just lit up. And I don't know what it is about wrestling that does that with any demographic, any ethnicity. There's just something magical. And perhaps it's the story versus, boxing, or it's a story to be told. And it's just amazing because as a little girl, I thought, oh, this was just confined to our region. And then now you see, you know, WWE, the reality shows, things like that. And yeah, I can't imagine. So if you were wrestling, would you want to do it in the cage? You know, when they do those big.
Well, I've done cage matches.
You have?
I've done.
Is that more intimidating psychologically?
Not really. One thing that you're talking, and I was a trainer for a good bit, and I like to help a lot of guys out there. You know, the wrestling company I was with, I went back all the way up to probably about the beginning of this year. I was one of the trainers there. You know, I like to help the young guys. And one thing that I always tell people, you know, when you go in and you think about it, you can't think. And it sounds weird. You know, we always use the whole don't think about it, do it mentality. Because the more you think about it, the more you think about trying to do that flip and landing perfectly, the more you think about doing this or doing that, you're going to think about it so much, you're going to fuck it up. That's what's going to happen.
Ignorance is bliss.
So when you go in, it's just kind of like a lot of times, like the cage matches that I've been in, we would sit there and we'd be like, okay, well, let's do this. Like a big spot where we do it off the top rope and we use the cage to support ourselves to get up there to do it. You know, we would sit there and we'd be like, well, we're not going to practice this beforehand. Because if we practice this beforehand, we might figure out a way of, you know, we might be like, we don't want to do this. And that'll take away from the fans. So what we would just be like is we'd be like, okay, we're just going to do it while we're out there. So you'd be up there and just whoom, this big, you know, suplex off the top.
Yeah,
and,
it looks more authentic.
Yeah, you know, it looks more authentic. There's no way of, you know, it's good to practice some of the stuff, at least kind of map it out, but not, you know, actually physically do it. But, yeah, I've been in no disqualification matches. I bled all over the ring. I bled all over myself, my opponent. I've been in countless ladder matches. My back, my knees, my ankles, everything is shot. I've been slammed. You can be taught as many times as you want to be to learn how to fall. One thing you will never learn how to do is how to fall off of a ladder or how to land on a ladder. That's just the way it is. You know, you're up on a ladder and someone drop kicks you. You got to go and just tuck your head and pray for the best. And, you know, that's just the whole thing with it is that, yes, it's predetermined, but I've always called wrestling the most realistic thing in the world. And nothing beats being able to sit there and be able to get in a steel cage and someone locks that cage door and you're in the crowd is just lightning. And, you know, you're sitting there, you're just, you know, you get that moment before the match starts where you can just kind of suck it in a little bit. And you're like, this is about to become something special. And there was a cage match, first cage match I ever did. I almost lost my wrestling license because it was a steel cage weapons match. And one of the guys that was in the ring was JD Bam Bam Roberts. I was the Maryland champion. He was the champion at the time. I lost to him. You know, our feud concluded in a cage match, and we had sat there and talked in the back, and we knew what was going to happen. We have what is in Maryland called the Maryland State Athletic Commission. They're a bunch of crooks, pretty much. You know, and I, you know, MSAC. You know, if they hear it, I don't care because I no longer wrestle. But pretty much, you pay them a percentage of all your ticket sales. You pay them for a doctor, you pay them to regulate the match, and all they come in and tell you all this bullshit you can't do. It's pretty much
like the government.
Yeah, it's pretty much paying them to, you know, do nothing. It's like paying taxes. That's kind of what it's like for like wrestling promoters, and you don't make a lot of money. And, you know, so we went into the match, and one thing that's banned in Maryland is steel chair shots to the head. And one of the things in the match is he told me, it's like, I want you to hit me like 7 or 8 times in the head with a chair. Just blast me with a chair as many times as you can. So I did it. And the last part of it was I handcuffed him to the cage like this. I hit him so hard with the steel chair that one handcuff came undone and he just kind of sat there and dangled. When we got in the back, the commissioner yelled at us so bad, like up and down, I should take your license, blah, blah, blah. And thankfully, the main commissioner, you know, Pat Pinella, he knew me very well. I knew him very well. He knew I always went out there, protected guys. I was nothing but respectful. I never gave anybody a hard time. So thankfully, thank you, Pat Pinella, for not taking our, you know, wrestling license that night. And, you know, it just happens. But, you know, being able
What was the crowd's reaction? I bet they went
crazy.
The
crowd was fire. And that's the whole thing. And, you know, it's the whole thing that I can't imagine the hysteria or the aneurysm our promoters and, you know, the other guys were having in the back, because they're like, these guys are really out there doing that. Like, we knew we weren't supposed to be doing it, but we didn't care. Like, we're like, you know what? We're not going to rob these, you know, 400 people that have sold out this building, you know, of a good match. So we just went out there, and we were the type of guys that were perfectly fine with actually legitimately beating the shit out of each other too. Like, you know, we'd sit there and we, you know, our punches would have a little bit more stink to them, you know, than what more punch, because once you reveal the illusion, once you show that it's a work, you know, that's the thing. It's like, I used to always say, either sell the move or I'm going to make you. You know, if you're sitting there, I have you in a submission move, you're not acting like it's going to hurt. Trust me when I tell you, this is actually a real submission hold that can be done. If I'm holding your ankle and you're not selling that hurts, I'm going to twist your fucking ankle to where you're screaming in fucking pain. Or if I punch you and you act like I'm not punching you, then the next punch is going to be a punch that you're going to feel. And, you know, that's just the whole thing, because you can't expose the business.
Right.
And people know that it's a work. People know that it's fake, but you don't want to expose it more than what it already is. So, but yeah, I mean, it was fun. And I mean, you know, just like the
Ray,
stuff-
did you have did you have any rituals, like good luck rituals and a good luck song that pumped you up before a match?
I didn't really have. I listened to do you listen to rock music?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Five Finger Death Punch?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I used in my career, I used 2 songs from Five Finger Death Punch. One was The Bleeding, the other was Hard to See. And you know, when those songs would hit, I would never go right out. But beforehand, I would put in headphones and I would listen to those songs over and over again, because those songs always got me into my character. And I would pour water over my head, and right before our match would start, probably like the last match would be concluding 2 minutes before, I'd be pacing back and forth in the back, pacing back and forth, pacing back and forth. And that's getting me, you know, in that zone, getting me in that character. I'm just walking back and forth, walking. And then finally, it's like, once I know I'm in tune and the music's probably about like 10, 15 seconds through, boom, out the curtain, and it's time to go. And, you know, it's just literally, it's a flip of a switch type thing. It's like, you know, you can be sitting there laughing at each other in the back right before you walk out the curtain. Your music hits, you go out that curtain, that switch flips. You're a different human being at that point. Yep. You know, you could be sitting there, hey, how are your kids doing? You know, oh man, yeah, hey, blah, blah, blah. You know, and then the next thing you know, you're out there sitting at pointing at a little boy and go, if you don't sit down, I'm going to smack you out of the side of your chair or whatever. So funny, and, you know, that's just the whole thing. And it could be the guy's kid. You just sat there and asked, hey, how are your kids doing or whatever. And however, you know, he has kids in the crowd. So what's the easiest thing to do? You go to the other wrestlers' kids and go, I will knock you out. And you know that they're going to, you know, feed back to you. So, but yeah,
well, that's funny though, because what you're saying is some of the nicest people that I've met are wrestlers.
Yeah, look at Blood.
Well, Matt, what's your go-to pump up song before you hit?
Before I hit?
Yeah.
Before I hit what? The bomb?
Yeah. See, Matt,
I don't wrestle.
Yeah, Matt doesn't. Matt's just one of my good friends. So, you know, but some of the other guys I have on Blood, Socrates, you know, they've been in the wrestling business as long as I have. As I said, I started this podcast off just wanting to tell, you know, Blood is one of my longtime friends. He moved to South Carolina recently, and we were in the wrestling business together. I wrestled him more times than anybody else. He beat me for the heavyweight championship. I was tag team partners with him. I won tag belts with him. I've been in the ring with him more times than anybody. And in February, he moved to South Carolina, and we did a no fan. We, of course, you know, COVID. So we did a no fan show where me and him got in the ring. There was barbed wire involved, a barbed wire bat. We bled all over the place. We messed the canvas up so bad because we bled in the ring. They had to throw the canvas away. Like it. I mean, that's just.
How was that though with no crowd?
You know, it's weird, but for wrestlers, you're used to it because you go to the wrestling school at least like 3, 4, 5 times a night, you know, to condition yourself. So you're used to being in the ring and doing that same exact thing, and boom. But, you know, in a show situation, it's weird because you're so used to,
got to feed off it,
you know, just knocking a guy down, and then you get energized. You know, you're like, come on, come on, come on. And, you know, I said last week, you know, when we were talking to Howard, that sometimes the crowd reaction makes you work harder. You know, the crowd's so into something that it fuels you more. It makes you want to work harder. It makes you want to do more. When there's nothing, it's just kind of like, oh man, like it doesn't transition as well on TV as, what it would, if there was a crowd there. You hear everything. It's much harder to have someone in a headlock be like, all right, hey, whip me over, tackle, step over, people can hear you kind of talking a lot more. So you have to be a lot more discreet on what you're doing. So, live crowd, you can sit there and kind of, almost yell out your directions, and maybe the people in the front row will hear you, but, a whole arena will not, so it's just, it was a whole different atmosphere,
Who for you right now is the one to watch in wrestling, male or female or both?
For me, if I were to say people to watch in wrestling, I would say Randy Orton. Because Randy Orton has been around forever. He is a great worker in the ring. He knows all of his gimmicks. Randy Orton's been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. Anything he's ever had put in front of him, he's molded into gold. When you're a wrestler, you're supposed to, you put something in, people are supposed to be eating out of your hand. That's the way it is. Like, these guys, and it's funny because a lot of guys get in the industry because they're like, oh man, we get into it. Like Bob Starr told us he's like, I got into it for the girls. Like, hey, all these women, they're after the show, they're like, oh man, even if he got the help eaten out of him, he was just in the hands of talent. He lost, but still, it's the kind of thing that you're out there, you're this guy, you're getting beat up, and you get up and you're just walking around or whatever. And it's like, but you have to be able to have that power of control. You need to delegate to the fans. The fans don't delegate to you what you do. You're in that ring. You're delegating to them. They paid to come see you wrestle. Regardless of how much fans bitch online about this, that, or another, I'm telling you how you're going to react. If you come out there and you're cheering me and I'm a bad guy, trust me, I'm going to say the most vulgar, demeaning thing I possibly can to you to make you hate me. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way it's going to work. So, but yeah, it was fun. And Sherry, with you, of course, we're running a little bit over our regular time. What's all coming up for you? Of course, you did the Maxim stuff. Do you have any modeling coming up? Have you ever maybe experimented with the whole thing? Because it's huge. We brought it up earlier. Everybody almost always talks about it. Have you ever thought about maybe doing an OnlyFans, even if it's not, a nude thing, even if it's just model shots or something like that? Have you ever thought about doing anything like that to continue on with some of the modeling stuff? What's coming up for you in the future, and where can everybody find you?
I'm just still, I hope to be crossing into the United States come late September. More modeling. I'll be doing a couple campaigns that are in the works right now. So everyone, they can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, XOXO, Sherry XO, Facebook, Sherry Nelson, Fan Room Live. It's an interactive show. And I always try, as I said at the onset, I try to be as inclusive as possible. And if anybody has someone that they hope to have on that show, just reach out to us. So maybe we can try and get them. But I always love to have people join us on shows so they can meet the guests as well. So. Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's why we like to do the Facebook Live stuff. Now, of course, everybody listening at home, this is airing on its regular time. But for everybody watching on Facebook Live, this will be airing next Sunday. So, and with that being said, we will be back next Sunday live with John Butcher. He's a musician, guitar player. We will be live with him. Shout out to Elaine Shapiro. She has hooked us up for the month of August, providing us with all of our guests. Howard was awesome. Sherry, you've been awesome. Of course, John will be next week. And then we will conclude the month with Rocky Kramer. And then October, Sherry will be providing us all of our Halloween-oriented guests in October as well. So that should be pretty fun. Sherry, I really appreciate you being a fan of the show. I'm always humbled. I always try to be as humble as possible. That's just how I am.
It's a great show. It's a great breath of fresh air. It's a man's man. I love it. I hate that you guys get blamed for everything, it seems. So this is a nice beer, relax, break bread. I love it. It's a great show.
And I mean, that's the thing. Like you saw, like we briefly went through your notes, but I go into this. I'm so used to pro wrestling of just calling everything in the ring and just, being, just doing it live and not having really a plan. Like, I would tell guys, be like, it's cool to plan all this out in the back, but once we get out there live, we're going to forget it. And that's just the way I am. Like, I'm not an actor. I'm not going to remember my lines. Like, I'd rather just get on.
You had me at that polo shot.
And you know, that's the thing. And we've never had anybody say anything bad about the show. You know, we can be very vulgar at times, but everybody has always told us, like Doug Bradley gets podcast requests all the time. And you know, he was pretty much like, I'm choosing your show because I'm intrigued by it. And that's the whole thing. We're a different flavor. We're a little bit of a breath of fresh air. You come on, you have a good time. We've never had anybody say that they haven't had a good time. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Sherry, thank you for being on the Happy Hour podcast. Would you be able to hang out 1 second once we're finished? Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the Happy Hour podcast. Thank you for joining us on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, worldwide, wherever you wherever you find us,
we're on it.
You know, of course, since things have lightened up, you know, the numbers have kind of went down a little bit. They were super high during COVID, but it happens. Of course, thank you for tuning in. Please go out, buy some merchandise, subscribe to our Patreon. We have our vintage episode series where we have everything from our old TV show, Happy Hour TV. Right now for the month of August is Rain Pryor, the daughter of Richard Pryor, the interview we did with her in 2013. That's currently on there. It's only $3 a month. That's a bargain. That's cheaper than any streaming network out there. If you enjoy the show, subscribe. See our bonus contents. Hear us say more awful things on that than what we do on our regular program weekly. And we will see you guys next week live with John Butcher. See you guys later.